One great thing about Linux is not only you can use it as a regular machine, but you can also connect to it through the network using things like SSH. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to do it through VNC, or virtual network computing. So as you can see now, looks like I'm on Linux, but if you actually go behind the scenes, I'm actually on Mac. So this is a VNC session. It's connecting from my Mac to my Linux machine. And in this video, I'll show you how to set it up and also be able to run both your regular session and alongside that a VNC session. Let's get started. I wanted to show you how I can connect to the Linux machine on my home network for this one. I also have a way to connect to it through my VPN, but that's a little bit of a different setup, so I want to keep that aside for now, keep the setup a little simpler. So let's just log in. You can see it's fairly quick. I was doing something earlier, so that's also here. So you can see you can use the terminal and everything. I mean, that's a little counterintuitive going through UI back to terminal, but you can also do that. You have access to all your programs here. My PWAs from Microsoft Edge, for example, other, I don't know, games, I guess. I don't know. I've never used all of this. Yeah, you can do pretty much everything that you could from a UI through VNC. To start off with, here as you can see, I'm on Darwin ARM64, so this is a Mac. Now let's SSH into the machine actually. So SSH should be the first thing you want to set up if you want to connect to a machine remotely. Secure shell is what it is, and I think I have a couple of videos about this as well. So let's get into the machine first. I use passwords. Again, you can decide if you want to just use PEM files or SSH identities. All of that you can learn by yourself. It's a good habit to learn SSH, to be honest. So now if you see, I'm on my Linux machine. So now if you see, it's an x86 x64 Linux machine. I can also do neo fetch, I think. Yes, so this is Ubuntu 22.04 and running for 3 hours almost now. And then I have a Ryzen 5 NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1070 Ti, 16 gigs of RAM, fairly old device, but it works for my use cases. So I can connect to the machine through the CLI, but there are some times where I need to get to the UI for some odd setting that I need to configure, which I probably don't know how to do through the CLI. So in those cases, VNC is a good way to get to the machine. So VNC stands for Virtual Network Computing, and it lets you use your remote machine as if it's available to you right here through a UI instead of a CLI, how SSH does. So to get this to work, the first thing is, if you see my Linux machine's default UI, which is here, you can see I've put it up here. It's GNOME Desktop Manager, as I said before. So that's a familiar UI that I've gotten used to over the years, and there are a couple of issues that happens once you set up VNC. So we'll get to that, but let's just first set up VNC. So what I'm using for this is Tiger VNC. So that's a good solution I found. So this is the command, and I'll add all these comments in the YouTube description and probably on my website as well, so it's easy to copy. So this is what I needed to install, Tiger VNC-standalone-server. Once this is installed, you'll see that there's a SystemCTL or a system daemon that's been created for this, so that will be in lib. Yeah, this one. Let's actually do a bat instead of a cat. So here you will be able to see the various things it's doing. Essentially, it's VNC, so remote desktop service. And then the good thing that they've done is they've added this parameterized VNC sessions, which means you can create multiple VNC sessions, and multiple users could potentially connect to the same machine if your machine was indeed that large in terms of compute. So the way you turn this on is through sudo systemctl enable. So that's fprint d1. So here if you see, I'm passing in 1 as the parameter, which means that I'm only turning on one VNC session by default, which is enable. So enable means at startup this service is going to run. What that does is, and I think I forgot to show you this in this file. So here if you see, the parameter I that I passed will become the port number plus 5900. That's what they're starting with, and that's what you'll need to connect to this VNC session. So since I passed 1, the port I need to connect to is 5901. So that's how you create multiple instances of the VNC session. You can also configure a few things. So VNC by default unfortunately isn't encrypted, and if you see the default configurations in etc, was it in share? No, etc Tiger VNC and then Tiger VNC server dash config defaults. Oh, needed to do cat actually. So here if you see, let's just grep for localhost. Not sure, I mean the entire file is commented. By default they have set localhost equals no, and what that means is this VNC's port that we exposed 5901 can be connected through the home network. I mean, it makes sense if it's on a home network, but if it's an open public Wi-Fi or something, that's not a good idea. So you could change that. So I did it in the other file, which is config mandatory. So here at the end, if you see, now I've commented it because I want to connect to it through my network. But if you turn this to say yes, then you'll only be able to connect through localhost. Well, you will be thinking, then how will you connect from a remote machine, right? So that's where SSH and VNC sort of work together. You do a tunneling, SSH tunneling, and then port forward your 5901 on localhost through SSH to the remote machine. So if I open a new tab, and this is on my Mac. So here if you see that I'm on Mac again, and if I do something like this, so let's say this is my machine. What I would be doing is port forwarding 5901, and then here if you see the command, what it's doing is it's doing -L 5901, the address, which is 192.168.0.162 5901. So what that means is my remote machine's 5901 becomes my localhost 5901. So that's how you do an SSH tunneling. And then what you can do is connect to the VNC session through localhost 5901 on your remote machine. So the VNC session has been forwarded through SSH to a remote machine, and you're just connecting it there. So now the entire traffic is also encrypted. You can do this on a public Wi-Fi as well, because all the packets that are going through that SSH tunnel are encrypted by default. So that's a good practice. Again, this is my home network, so I don't really care about that. So by default, it will allow you to connect to it directly through the remote IP, and that's what I've done. I have not changed that setting yet. On a production environment, you'd ideally want to turn that off and only allow localhost access. So back to my Linux machine now. I showed you how you can change that setting. One other thing is you will need a password to connect to the session. So that can be set using Tiger VNC password. So you just add your password, then write it again, and then it verifies it. Actually, let's just run it again. So here if you see on the verification step, you can also have just a view only password. So you can allow connections and they can only view what's going on in the screen and not be able to interact with the machine. That's also something possible. If you want to do a screen share or something remotely, that's a good use case. Control C out of that. So the way VNC works is this status, if I do for Tiger VNC server 1, it's constantly looking for a connection on 5901, and then once there's a connection, it will start a VNC session. So right now it's just waiting. It just started the service and it's waiting. That's all it's doing. So what happens is once it starts, somebody connects to the VNC session, it will run this file called as a VNC's XStartup file. So the way VNC worked originally is through an X11 server. That's slightly changing and going towards Wayland, which is a newer. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but originally it used to be running through an X11 server, which is the display for Linux. So I'll show you what's essentially happening. So we'll see, we're finding out which display is running and what's the X authority file. This, you can ignore all this. This is the main bit. So if you have a UI running on the local machine, like this Linux PC, the GNOME desktop manager, and you have a VNC session also attached, you want to have separated dbus sessions for these device bus sessions. So for example, if I don't unset these things, what tends to happen is if you started let's say file explorer on the VNC session, there are chances it might open on the local session. That's not what we want. We want whichever session tried to open the app, that's where the app opens. So those issues I've faced and I've fixed them here. So you should also add this in your XStartup file. This won't be there by default. The second thing I tried is running GNOME session directly. So GDM, GNOME desktop manager, is what I tried to configure as and when somebody connects to the VNC session. So that I'll add a video here as well. But the problem that happened is, man, GNOME is just too graphics intensive, and at least my Wi-Fi isn't that good to support it. So I had to set up XFCE. To set up XFCE, I think let's do an app list and then see what has XFCE. I don't remember the exact. Oh, there's a typo there. XFCE 4 is something you can start with. There's a minimal package as well. I'll find that out and put that in the description if I can find it. But I think this is what I installed, XFCE 4. And then if I show you the XStartup file again, you need to do start XFCE 4. So do remember that all of this commands is going to be run for the user who's trying to connect. But I still haven't shown you how you connect. So let's show it. Let me show it to you on a Mac. So on a Mac, you just open the Finder app, do a Command K. And then here is where you put VNC:// my VNC server is exposed on the remote IP, so that's my IP, and then the port 5901, and I just do connect. Now it's asking me the password. This is the password I set with the tigervnc-passwd command. Put it here and also add it to my keychain because I'm going to be connecting a lot. So remember password, do a sign in, and then you're in Linux world now. So this is XFCE. So let's just log in. You can see it's fairly quick. I was doing something earlier, so that's also here. So you can see you can use the terminal and everything. I mean, that's a little counterintuitive going through UI back to terminal, but you can also do that. You have access to all your programs here. My PWAs from Microsoft Edge, for example, other, I don't know, games, I guess. I don't know. I've never used all of this. Yeah, you can do pretty much everything that you could from a UI through VNC. The other thing is how does this know that it has to connect to this user? That's something that is configured in this file. Sudo, let's see, Tiger VNC, and then there's a VNC server.users file. Oops, should have done cat actually. So as you can see, if it is the first parameter, or rather if the parameter that I passed is 1, the parameter being this one, this :1, if it's the first display, connect to this user. There are a couple of examples here, but this is where you want to change and set your username that you want to connect. Let's actually quickly show you how you would change the desktop manager here to, let's say, GDM, and then see how slow it is. So now instead of starting an XFCE session, it'll start a GNOME session, and then you need to restart your Tiger VNC, and then now you reconnect. So I don't know why I get this authentication thing, but let's just cancel that. So you can already feel that it's ridiculously slow, right? That's one of the reasons I had to switch back to XFCE, but this is completely unusable. And I think this is happening because of my Wi-Fi. But again, I'm always going to be potentially on Wi-Fi, not on Ethernet anyway. So this UI, although it looks amazing, the frame rate is just going to kill you if you want to do something long term. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to cover in this video, a brief about how you want to set up VNC for both local use of your machine in a regular GNOME desktop environment running on the side, and then VNC sort of augments that by having a separate XFCE session allowing you to connect to it remotely, do stuff, and then if you want, you can also have both running side by side. You can have one user running using the machine directly and somebody remotely connecting. Those sorts of scenarios are all covered through all the changes that I've made in the config files. I'll add all these in the description so you can copy paste them. Add your questions below if you have any about how to set up VNC, if you face any issues. Obviously I showed you how to do this on Ubuntu, but if you think about it, the only thing that will change is how you install Tiger VNC in the first place. Use your package manager. Everything else is config based and systemd based. If your machine is systemd based, yeah, it will pretty much work, which most of the distros are. So that's all I wanted to cover in this quick video about VNC. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them and create a follow-up video if required. See you in the next one.